Today we're going to do some base coating. So base coating is almost paint by number. Each of our areas, from here to here, hair and flesh and beard and mustache, are all going to get one color, and each garment will get another color. We're not going to concern ourselves with the background or the border at this time. So disregarding the border and the background, we're going to get to this level on the garments and the face and the hair. If you notice on this particular picture, this side of the hair is a little different than this side. This is the side we're going for. This has a little bit of burnt sienna on top, and that will come a little bit later. But for now, we're going to block in blues, we're going to block in this maroonish red, and we're going to block in the base color for the flesh and the hair. Now, the flesh and the hair is a color that's called Zankir, and it really just means flesh in iconography. Now, I'm just going to take a few dollops of this. If I have it pre-mixed, I've already put medium in it. When we get to the garment colors, which I'm going to take right out of the tubes, we're going to add a little bit of glaze medium, clear glaze medium, just so you can see the label there. So our goal is to get as many coats on, to get it as dark as we can get it without losing our lines. And it's easier to paint evenly or get it more even if we do it in sections. And I keep my brush moving pretty quickly. This is water-based paint, and it does start to set pretty quickly. And acrylic paints, if you run your brush over too many times as it begins to dry, you'll have to excuse me in these videos. Sometimes I have trouble painting and talking at the same time, so just bear with me. So you don't want the paint to start drying before you get it spread out. And as long as you don't belabor it too long, you'll be okay with that. If you run your brush over it after it starts to dry, you could get a hole in the paint. That's our nemesis. And it happens to the best of us. So I take one brush load of paint and I spread it out completely before I get more. Now, all of my paint consistencies are anywhere from cream to milk in consistency. And if it is not that, you may need a couple drops of water. Because if you have your paint too thick, it's not going to spread for you, and it's going to be uneven, and parts of your lines will be covered completely and obliterated, and others will be way too light. I also try to vary my brush strokes. Now, if you paint like this for every single stroke, it could get streaky. So I try to move my brush around in different directions. If you want to think about it a certain way, you could say paint in X's. But if it does get streaky, the next coat you can just paint in the opposite direction. And the third coat you can paint again, yet in the opposite direction again. And eventually all those different layers of brush strokes going in at different angles will knit it all together in a nice even coating. And see, I have a little bit of white that seemed to skip. So I'm just going to put a couple dollops in there. Let me finish you can see every once in a while I put a few drops in my paint. The air does thicken it up. I do not want to obliterate my lines, so I want to spread out what I put on the board very well. And I'm going to work between all three colors here. So as soon as I'm done with this brown color, this coffee color, a latte color almost, like it has a little bit of cream in it already. After I get this first coat done, then I am going to go between the blue and the red on the garments to give this time to dry. We cannot recoat until it is perfectly dry, or again, it will have start to set and will pull up the paint that's partially dry and will create a hole in our paint. We don't want to do that. It's not the end of the world. I do know how to fix these things, but I'm just telling you all the whys and wherefores as we go along. Okay, so beard, hair, mustache, eyebrows, all of flesh is now completely covered one time. Everybody always wants to know, how many layers? How many layers? There is no definitive answer for that. It's all in how you apply the paint. Some people apply it more thickly, some put too much water in. So it's all in how you apply the paint. And it takes a little while to get used to that. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to do the inside color first. I have two colors here, Indian Red Oxide and Brown Madder. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so we have some Indian Red Oxide, and Brown Madder, I know from experience, it is a much more transparent color. I am going to start with that. Some of these tubes need to be shaken up a little. Not usually, but I can feel it. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and mix with that. Let's get some more in here. Okay. I just thought the Indian Red Oxide was just a little too dark on its own. Okay. And I'm also going to put a couple drops of clear glaze medium in it. Do that instead of water. It helps to seal the paint layers in, and it also helps to give a more translucent quality to the paint without breaking down the paint. If you put too much water in it, you will lose the light color fastness. These are artist graded paints, so you don't want to lose those properties. Okay, so let's put, we want to look here, and our red's going to end around there. I'm just going to give myself a little line. I got a little glare with the light, so I'm just tipping the board ever so slightly to get that glare off while I'm painting. I'm going to come right up over those outline lines. Our border color and our background color are a little transparent, so I don't want to get too sloppy and get over into the border. And there I did a teensy bit, so just trim it up with a damp brush. And now, got a little too much paint, so I'm gonna spread that out good. Now, as you start turning the board around and you press your hand in areas that were already painted, I can tell that this is already dry. I'm not going to lift anything, but it's very easy to get your hand in wet paint. So just got to be mindful of that. Okay, so that one's done. So now we're going to do a little bit of Prussian blue for the blue garment. I'm not going to put much paint on the panel here, or excuse me, on the plate. We don't need that much. Small area. My board is a 6x8 board. Of course, you can do this picture at any size. I often do it in a 9x12 as well. And even sometimes in a 12x16. Okay, so I'm mixing a little bit of clear glaze medium in with that blue pigment. And if you notice, if you watch my brush when I'm picking up paint, I twirl my brush an awful lot. And one of the reasons I do that is to keep that nice point, to kind of even out the load of paint, and to keep that point, because you want to have control. And that point helps you get into these corners, these little nooks and crannies. Okay, now coming around the curls, I think I'm gonna, let's see, I have a 6 brush here. That's a 6. Probably could use a 4, but I'll just pick this one up just to get around these curls a little bit. Then I'll go back to this. Okay, so there you have one coat of base coating on each area. And now I am going to turn off the camera and I will recoat the flesh and the garments multiple times until I get to about this level. I think for the way I applied the paint, I'll probably need 2 to 3 more coats, at least on the flesh, maybe another coat or 2 on these 2 areas. But again, it's all in how you apply the paint. Okay, until next time, when I'm done here, I'll take a photo of the completed copy, and then we'll go on to background.